queens.
Katie, I am super excited for today's episode.
We have our resident psychic, Tandy.
Ooh.
For anybody that's never tuned in to one of our History's Mysteries, let's start with saying what we're going to do today. In these episodes, we invite on our friend Tandy, who is a wellness witch and tarot card reader, and we give her a historical mystery, and she lets the cards tell her what happened. Tandy, are you ready to get into the mystery?
Let's get ready to rumble!
Tandy, does the name Catherine of Aragon ring any bells for you?
It is familiar, but if I had to take a quiz or answer direct questions, I would probably get them all wrong.
What about the name Arthur Tudor?
Tudor,
Kind of in the
sure,
same camp?
yes.
Tudor. Okay, so what about Henry VIII?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, up top, what we do is we tell Tandy like what she needs to know. So if you're listening along and you are a Tudor file and we're leaving some of your favorite parts out of the story, that's on purpose because we want to see what Tandy picks up. So I think we're going to go ahead and just hit you with what you need to know. So Nathan, why don't you take it away?
All right, so Catherine of Aragon was born December 16th, 1485 in Spain. So Sagittarius sun, her mother and her father, Ferdinand of Aragon, and Isabella of Castile, they were the power couple of Europe. And very important to them that all of their kids grow up to be super powerful too.
Do you recognize those names, Isabella and Ferdinand?
Yes. That one I do.
If you went to school in the United States, you know, we're taught that a queen in Spain sold her jewels to fund Christopher Columbus's journey, and that's Catherine of Aragon's mom, Isabella. So when Catherine was 3 years old, her parents made an agreement with the King of England. She is going to marry the King of England's eldest son, Arthur. And so one day she's going to be Queen of England. And so from the age of literally 3 years old, all of her lessons, everything she does is so that she can then go on to be a badass queen like her mom, just over in England instead of in Spain.
So let's fast forward, and Catherine is now 15, and it's time for her to leave her home and her family. So she's got to go to England and marry that prince.
It's important to note that, like, at the time and the place, 15 was considered a grown woman. So this wasn't, like, super young or anything. And the marriage alliance is completely centered around that these two young people need to start making more heirs immediately.
And boning is what we're talking about.
They need to start boning. She needed to make babies right away.
It's also important to note that if the marriage was not consummated, then it's not legally binding at that point.
Catherine arrives in England, and she takes like a month to get settled and meet everybody, and then it's time to get married.
Also, Catherine was a hit in England. She's from the best royal family in all of Europe. She's pretty, she's polite, smart. Her mother-in-law loves her. The people love her. So literally, she's the perfect 16th century princess.
This is all to paint the picture that there's nothing to indicate that Arthur wouldn't have liked her for any reason. Yeah. So in England, the heir to the throne is called the Prince of Wales. Still is today, so you've probably heard that term. And while he's learning how to be king, the Prince of Wales is usually sent to Wales, to his own household. Not long after the wedding, Catherine and Arthur head to his place in Wales to start their married life, and everybody is assuming in the next year or so they're going to have a baby in the crib.
Sadly, though, while in Wales, Arthur catches something called the sweating sickness, and he dies about 5 months into their marriage.
Have you ever heard of this sweating sickness before, Tandy?
No.
You would wake up fine, and then maybe around like 10 a.m., you're like, it's a little hot. And then you would sweat yourself to death and be dead by like 10 p.m.
What?
Like that same day. It was like, we still don't know what caused it. We still don't know what made it go away. But it was, so it was very sudden. And protocol at the time for royal widows is that until you can prove that you're on your period, you kind of stay under close supervision just in case you're pregnant. Because if she was pregnant and it was a son, that would be next in line to be king. But Catherine is like, hey, guys, y'all really don't have to worry about that. We never had sex. I'm definitely not pregnant.
And from the jump, no one really took her seriously when she said that they had never had sex. I mean, what else have they been doing in Wales all this time? Why wouldn't they have been at least trying? Is she just trying to be modest by saying, oh, we didn't have sex, and be that very demure girl? Was it too embarrassing to talk about in front of people? I mean, I can get that, the too conservative type of personality to talk about
She's
sex.
very, very Christian. You know, they're very, very pious. The King of England has another son named Henry. And both the King of England and the King of Spain are eager to keep this alliance. So they're like, why don't we just redo it all, copy paste, just with a different prince in place now.
Okay.
And Catherine will just marry the next son.
But everyone in this story right now is super Catholic. And according to Catholicism, if she slept with Arthur and then sleeps with Henry, then that's incest. But the Pope has so much power. The Pope. He has so much power that he can literally be like, no, it doesn't count. None of this matters because God wants this alliance. It's all okay. Like, literally. Yeah. So you can get a hall pass from the Pope.
To be like, incest in this specific situation is okay because y'all are really rich and y'all probably paid me a lot of money to say that God wants this alliance.
Catherine of Aragon is like, that's fine. Y'all can do all of this, but I never slept with him, so it doesn't really matter.
So 7 years later, a lot of shit goes down in 7 years. Not relevant to this part, but 7 years later, old king dies. Henry VIII is now king, and his first act as king is he marries Catherine of Aragon.
Yep. And now let's fast forward 20 years. And we have a problem. Unfortunately, a royal woman, and all they freaking care about is her having a son and an heir.
Yeah. And so they definitely had some infertility issues in their marriage. She didn't really have any problem getting pregnant. She had a really hard time. She had so many pregnancies, so many stillbirths, or babies that lived for a couple of days and then died. After 20 years, they only have one living child, and it's a girl, a daughter named Mary. And so, because history is a bag of dicks, that's a problem.
King Henry VIII decides that he's got to annul this marriage to Catherine and marry someone else because he needs to have sons. He is expecting Catherine to be like, oh, yep, totally fine. Because honestly, yeah, right. Annulling a royal marriage for infertility issues, that really wasn't unheard of. But in this case, Catherine's like, oh, hell no. We are not getting a marriage null.
Henry has to take it to court. And so the king and queen are in court against each other. And him being like, this marriage was actually never valid to begin with because you were married to my brother. And so this is incest. And so it doesn't count. And he cites Leviticus from the Bible. If you lay with your husband's wife, y'all will be infertile. And she's like, one, we have a daughter, so not infertile. And two, I never slept with Arthur. Get it through your fucking head.
And after years and years of fighting it to get his way, Henry VIII decides to break with the Catholic Church just so he can divorce Catherine. And this break with the church is often cited as Henry VIII's descent into being an all-around dickbag. In breaking with the church, he also gave himself the role as like a supreme ruler and has no checks, no balances anymore. And spoiler alert, a lot of people lost their heads because he was insane.
So, what we want to know, Catherine and Arthur, did they or didn't they? Did Arthur not know what he was doing? Did they think that they just had time? Or did they do it, but Catherine was so obsessed with the idea of being Queen of England that she thought the only out to keep this route that she thought God had put her on was to tell this one little bitty lie.
Okay. I'm simply going to pull for, did she sleep with Arthur? Like, just very simplistic. Okay. Did they get her done?
Yes.
Oh, it's so the anticipation.
I mean, you guys, it's never simple. It's never straightforward. But The answer is no, honestly. It's the Seven of
Okay.
Swords. So
Okay.
while you all were talking and before I pull cards, there's messaging that comes through, there's energy that moves through. She seems pretty loud of like, I'm not a liar. I wasn't lying. I didn't lie to begin with, and I didn't lie at the end. And like, I certainly wouldn't have lied in court. The Seven of Swords, okay? So if anybody is familiar with the tarot, the Seven of Swords usually denotes is that there's a manipulation of some kind, that there's an untruth in there somewhere. So I always explain this card to my clients as you're trying to go in. Okay, there's a joke here already. You're trying to go in through the back door, just like to get something that you need or want. I'm not joking that this card very often means you're trying to be sneaky and go in through the back door to get what you should have just knocked on the front door and asked for. Does that make sense? Like, I
Okay.
always explain it as like
Yeah.
you loaned something to somebody like 3 years ago. And instead of just going to the door and being like, hey, y'all, could I have this thing back? And just seeing like what happens. Like, they gave it away, they lost it, they forgot about it, they just forgot to return it. That you wait until they're not home and you're like, I know the code to their garage and I'll go in through the garage because I know they don't keep it locked and I'll just go in and get it. And you're like, wait, why are you doing this in such a weird, fucked up way instead of just like asking for what you need or wanted? No, they did not. But I think they did things.
So she gave him a blowy or something like that.
Yeah, right? And she's like very clear from you telling the story. Like, I'm not a liar.
Okay.
I wasn't lying. It wasn't that she didn't want to have sex. I mean, she had so many miscarriages. It wasn't this like she knew that that was her role in her job. She took that seriously. She also didn't dislike it. It was just like exhausting.
Well, why? Like, I would think on her part, it's just as much effort in the other. Why not just do the P&V?
I don't know. So maybe we could pull another card.
Okay.
I don't know. So we're asking.
But so she's not lying when she's in court and telling Henry, I never slept with your brother. She's not lying.
Y'all are gonna. Okay. Why didn't they just?
Yeah. If they were already sleeping in the same bed and already touching each other's niblets.
Death.
It's the death card.
I wish you could see both of their faces.
Well,
like
okay, I'm trying to get clarity here for you. I mean, this is the weirdest job in the world to be a channel. She somehow knew he wasn't going to live. And I don't know if that was pure woo, because the death card is connected to Scorpio. Okay. It doesn't always mean death, but it can. Like, and there was this, like you said, she had her eye on the prize. It feels like she knew he was not going to survive for one reason or the other. He wasn't hardy stock. Seems
that
like
does
she knew
play
he was
into
sickly.
it plays into the theory that he was a sickly child. Like he did have health issues. So that has been debunked, but it's also been still floated. So that does
What's been debated?
Yeah.
So I have a cheat question that you're like, but this is your job, and then we can pull another card. But did she and Henry VIII have any connection? I mean, they would have met at the wedding.
She would have been 15 and he would have been 10. But they did have like a brother-sister connection. Like they were friends.
But I hear, and again, just the messenger for the two cards that we pulled.
Okay.
I think she knew he was hardier stock.
Mm-hmm.
Energetically, this is like a message, a feeling that Arthur just wasn't going to survive.
Okay. Maybe a vision. She definitely did a lot of like fasting. She was very pious, very into being Catholic. And I think we've talked about on her episode where she would do a lot of fasting. And sometimes, you know, people would fast and have hallucinations that they were getting.
Yeah, that sounds like a loud yes. That's a very loud yes.
Okay. Didn't we talk about that, Nathan?
Yeah,
like starving yourself and then getting visions from God?
because she would do that. She would starve herself for days, weeks. It was just like
That's
brutal,
a yes.
but she would have these visions. So
that's a yes.
Yeah, I could see it.
In one of these fastings, maybe
Yeah.
she had a vision being like, this guy's not gonna make it.
Yeah, and it 100. That's what I hear.
Katie's sad.
I am. I'm always sad when I talk about Catherine of Aragon, though. She just had such a rough life.
Oh, I know. So sad.
Are you getting the vibe that she like at least liked him?
Yeah.
Or
Oh
did they
yeah.
just-
Actually, yes. Yeah. It's a hard big yes that there was a vision, there was a message, and she very much believed all of these things and navigated by it. Like she really was authentic to her belief system and what she was hearing and directed by it. It was like, I just need to have a map and a plan. And not only that, I've had this vision. I know this isn't going to last, and I know the rule.
Mm-hmm.
So she liked having sex. She enjoyed it. She took it seriously as a part of her role, but never felt like she enjoyed it with both of them. This is very much the vibe. As you all were telling me, like, it was really loud. She was like, I didn't lie. She was like, I really tried. It was fucking exhausting. You try being pregnant that many times and then having them just all, like, die and not survive. She was like, this is, fuck you. Like, that was part of her moment of, like, feminism empowerment. Like, I have been here. I am doing my job happily. You don't get to discard me like trash. Like,
Yeah, I 100% agree, because to me, like, from her perspective, if she's got her husband, and she's very pious, and King Henry VIII, they're both very pious, and Henry VIII is saying, you slept with my brother, so you're infertile. If she had really slept with his brother, she would have been like, you know what, you're right, the Bible's right. That's why I'm infertile. But
yes.
she didn't. She's like, no, I didn't, and that is not the reason why this has happened. What is this card?
Oh, you pulled another card. Which one is that?
I did, because I just like, let's get this moving a little bit, because it feels like she's like loud and hot and bothered. So this is the Nine of Pentacles. Nine of Pentacles is a really beautiful, auspicious card. It's usually about our ancestors gathering. It's usually about family, and it's usually about like happy moments of family and lineage and legacy. She was like, family meant a lot to me. This role meant a lot to me. I was dutiful and I meant it. And I've been taught my whole life that this was the role I was supposed to have. Like, no, I've done my job and I didn't lie. And there might have been some strategy, but maybe just some smarts of like knowing what was the lie and what wasn't. And she was like, you don't, after 20 years, get to take me to court and call me a liar on all of these things. Like you said, like they loved her, like the public loved her. And that actually meant something to her. Like, it's like I've already been insulted 1,000 ways by the universe and God. Like, I'm trying to have babies here. I would love to give you a son. I would have loved to have given you 10. It's just not happening.
And when they went to court, she had a mic drop moment. He called her into court. She basically read him for filth and was like, I've given you children. God's just chosen to take them away for whatever reason.
It is, and
I'm
one
not
of the most
doing this
badass.
And she walks out of the building and he's like, come back here. And she's like, Queen, out. And just like walks out on him, embarrasses him in front of everybody. And also, when you spoke to the family aspect, so you know how we mentioned that her parents were the King and Queen of Spain? Her mother was an independent queen on her own, and her father was an independent king on his own. And when they married each other, they united Spain. But her mother was by far the more powerful one of the two. In Spain, women could inherit the crown. So she's probably they have a surviving daughter. So she's also probably looking and being like, what's the problem here? Like, I know you would have preferred.
Like, I gave you a child. I gave you an heir.
Yeah.
It's an heir. And she ended up becoming the heir. So shove it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because it's like the energy rolls, right? It's that like, no, I'm so tired of people thinking I'm lying. I didn't lie then. I'm not lying now. Like, I took this seriously. I wanted to protect the lineage and the family. I wanted this to happen. And I did give you a fucking heir. And do we know if any of those children that did not survive were male?
So the first child they had was a boy that they named Henry. And he lived for about like 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. This is part of her indignation. She was like, I did. I don't know why they haven't survived. I don't know why God is taking them. But I have done what you've asked me to do incessantly, actually, almost nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
Not incestedly. I had to do it. I had to do it. You see what I did there?
Oh, but no, this poor woman. Have you ever heard of a phrase called phantom pregnancy? It's
No.
basically where your mind, you want to be pregnant so bad, your mind convinces your body and you start having. She even had one of those, I think.
She was
Poor
very
woman.
like wanted to do her job.
Oh,
Didn't I
that's
mean,
tracks. That tracks with Catherine of
Yeah.
Aragon. That was her thing. Is like, I am the wife. I am the first
yeah.
wife. I like. She was to the point of like that divorce never happened. Like, no,
Yeah.
that's not real. That divorce Henry
No,
had with
she
me, that's not
believed
real.
that too. She was driven by that vision. And she was like, I've had my eye on this before you even had thoughts of this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because, I mean, there's some debate about this, but between when Arthur died and when she finally married Henry, that was like 7 years and a lot of stalling, a lot of back and forth. That 7 years was really rough on her. She probably could have gone home to Spain if she hadn't been like, but no, I'm going to be Queen of England.
It's
About
like,
this.
no, I have a legacy and an assignment and a divine messaged like role. I'm doing it.
Tell me what card that is again.
It's the Nine of Pentacles. Pentacles are resources, time, money, energy, body, mind, and soul. Nine of Pentacles says typically it's a female that has worked really hard for something that people assume she's just been gifted these things. And the card shows up and says, no, you've earned them. You have navigated, you have cultivated them. Take a moment to enjoy it. And so it's got a lot of history being connected to like very goddess energy, very empowered female energy, but it always has a focus on the family and on extended legacy. So it's kind of an
Making
epic
sense.
card to
Yeah.
pull for
Yeah.
her because
Or
it
Catherine
is
of Aragon for sure.
like giving this indignation of being called into court. She's like, you have got to be like, it's like that break. It doesn't matter where in history you are. If you are a woman who's just taken shit for too long, she's like, this is unbelievable. I might as well double down on the truth because we're here.
You brought
Yeah.
me here. Well, here you go.
Even
And it
before we
probably
started pulling
made it.
cards, that was the vibe, that she was like, no, I have been doing this relentlessly, unending. I am exhausted, but I'm happily still continuing because this is my role. This is my job. I believe in this. And like, not after, I mean, if you've had a miscarriage, if you've been through pregnancies, like, it's heartbreaking. It will fuck you up, you know? And she,
Mhm.
like, her energy's so loud about that, of like, no, you don't understand how I've continued to keep doing my job. Like, you don't get to insult me like this because you haven't had to do all of this.
Right. And she did so much else as queen. The people loved her. What a horrible PR campaign
Right?
Henry put himself on for this.
Do you want to pull one more card? Is there something else you want to ask?
I'm sure. Oh God, what do I want to ask Catherine of Aragon? Oh my God, I have so.
I kind of want to know what her feelings towards Anne Boleyn were.
I kind of want to know what her feelings for her dad was.
Her dad? Ooh.
Her dad or Anne Boleyn, because I think I know what Anne Boleyn was. She probably was like that slut.
Maybe her dad.
So we've been discussing like maybe pulling one more card, maybe that doesn't have to do with the did they or didn't they. And Nathan was saying like maybe see what she thought about Anne Boleyn. I was thinking maybe see what she thought about her dad because her dad pulled some shit. Is either of those kind of, she's leaning more towards wanting to talk to either of those, would you say, Tandy?
I hear dad.
Okay. But I'm sure she's got complicated feelings about, I'm sure with Anne Boleyn, it's just like, fuck her.
Yeah, there's not
Well,
much...
maybe from the afterlife, she might have some sympathy for her, for how things went. But maybe, no. No. Okay, never mind.
Not a whole lot. She's like, I worked my
Not a
ass
whole lot.
off.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see what she has to say about her dad, and then I can kind of fill you in on like that whole.
Okay, can we
talking
refine a question? But
Okay, in the years where she was just kind of floating around England, her mother had passed away, and her dad was not doing anything to help her come home, but her dad also wasn't sending her any money to live off of, and she still had to live like a princess.
Okay.
And then also the King of England, Henry VII, wasn't giving her any money to live off either. So, how did she feel about these men that just treated her like such garbage while she was in this place of limbo?
This is part of why she got so mad when Henry took her to court. She was like, fuck all y'all. Like, I'm so over it. Okay, this is a great card. This is so okay. So this is
Oh, that's
the
a pretty
magician
card.
Yeah. So this is the magician. The magician card says you can bring anything into fruition in this lifetime as long as you have the suits balanced, right? And it's this real balance of practical and magical. If you've got all the suits, like your swords, your cups, your wands, and your coins, like moderately in order in this 3D incarnation, right? Then you can manifest, have what you desire. Make sense?
Okay.
So she was like, fuck these men. Like, they are just a hot mess, dad included. Like, they're just going to do what they want to do. They think they get to, but she considers herself a magician. I'm just going to pull a rabbit out of a hat. She was getting these messages. Like, she was very woo, like, very connected. You know, when you believe, you believe. When you have had life experiences of like visions or messages, and then it plays out in your life, solidifies your belief system. Like, her vibe towards her dad was like, he's just being a man. Honestly, like, he's just being a male. He's being a royal. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with him. I clearly don't enjoy this at all. I don't know why I'm being left here to fend for myself. Her belief system was so strong that she was like, I'm protected. I'm going to figure this out. I'm here to pull a rabbit out of my hat. This is my role. This is my lane. This is my calling. This is my call from God. I'll figure it out, right? These resources will come. We will figure it out. Apparently, it's not going to be my dad. I don't love this for me, but here we are. And she really felt like, well, this is like the first big test. And she relied on these visions. This is why she continued to do it. They gave her faith, they gave her hope, and they gave her a direction.
I love thinking of Catherine of Aragon as the magician.
Me too.
Like,
but I feel like that was kind of her whole vibe anyway, is that she felt like she was supposed to be the Queen of England, and however it happened, that was her duty and her job, and that was her destiny, and I don't know how it's going to happen.
She believed.
Yeah, I believe that she believed.
It's incredibly
yeah, Catholicism is woo. Catholicism is pretty woo-woo.
Right? Well, I mean, you're chosen by God, particularly to be royals. Like, it's the ultimate woo.
I'm curious because when we talked about Princes in the Tower, you got quite emotional with Elizabeth Woodville coming through, just being like, thank you for still talking about this. Elizabeth Bathory, big Leo energy of like, I am just so happy. People are talking about me. I don't care if they're saying horrible things about me. I'm happy to be in the conversation. With Mary Queen of Scots, the energy was like, could y'all please stop asking me about this? Obviously, Catherine of Aragon doesn't want us calling her a liar, but is she giving off any kind of vibe on like us asking her to be around or talking about her or anything like that?
It feels like she's happy to be here. Like, it's very vibrant and strong. She's really more concerned, like, energetically with just her integrity in the narrative.
But she's not like Mary Queen of Scots, where it's like, quit talking about this. Are you still talking about this?
It kind of feels ambivalent, but also not. She's very dry in a lot of ways. It doesn't have this attachment to being seen or noticed, or because it's not like she likes something or is happy or excited about something. It's very like, these are the facts, this is the truth, and I'm concerned with the truth being told. I'm not even allowed to say that she likes us talking about her. She's ambivalent. And I think you could say she's appreciative. Why are these words so funny? They're very like cold and precise. Wow, it's hard. It is literally challenging to articulate because it's not devoid of emotion, but it's not being driven by emotion. It is being driven by integrity, fact, and clarity.
Though it seems like the one part that did have some emotion is like, well, maybe on the other side, she actually has some sympathy for Anne Boleyn, and then you laughed out loud.
I mean, it feels like when you were talking about it, that she's like, I don't want to like her, but I kind of do. And I'm also kind of like, fuck that. I went through all of this trying to cultivate an heir. And she just is like, actually, it feels like she likes her and kind of respects her. But like, I can't really say that out loud because I'm also a human that had to, like, I just am
Had to
not
go
going
through
to
that shit.
give it that.
Oh, cool. So just to recap, so her and Arthur did things, but not the thing that they needed to do. So she was not a liar. We just didn't ask any other specifics at the time.
Sounds like my teenagers. I didn't lie.
I didn't lie. I just told you half of the truth.
The reason behind not going all the way in the traditional sense with Arthur is that she just had some kind of vision from God or a feeling or something that this is not your path. He is not long for this world. And she didn't fucking lie about it. And then the magician was that, and how did she feel about all the men that were in her way, her dad, her father-in-law? They were just being men, and that's just, men really do be like that sometimes.
And that's what she had to do to get that was part of her destiny. So she just kind of rolled with it.
I know. I have so many other things I could ask about Catherine of Aragon, but we don't need to have a 3-hour-long episode, Tandy. I'm sure you got other shit to do. So, well, Catherine of Aragon, thanks for joining us. So nice to have you on the show. I wonder what she thinks of Six the Musical.
No, God.
I've been singing it this whole time, so I think she likes it. I have literally been singing her song in my head from jump, and I think she really likes it.
No way. There's no way.
So now, for the second half of this episode, we're going to sing Six the Musical.
And now, please join us for a 90-minute sing-along of Six the Musical.
And I'm sure our listeners would actually love it.
They probably would love it.
I almost said that at the top of the show because that song has been repeating, like her introduction. I love that musical. I think she really likes it.
Tandy, these episodes are always so much fun. But before we go, pluggables, we're going to put links to your mentoring in the show notes. What else do you want people to know about magical mentoring, unicorn wellness, and just the entire Tandy experience?
I would love for everyone listening to know that Spring Magical Mentoring will begin March the 7th. It's the first Friday in March, and that all through February, we're going to be doing exploration phone calls for it. So it's a 4-month mentoring program. It is super boutique and unique. Every month you all will get a channeled tarot reading. It's 5-card reading. So a channeled experience, similar yet different from this, that has a channeled to-do list that moves us through the 4 months of March, April, May, and June. The spring session has historically, for the last 6 years, been Lilith and Aphrodite, but I want everybody to hear that it's a channeled experience for me also. The questions that we work with, I don't know what they are yet because they have not moved through from the goddesses yet, and there's some conversation amongst the goddesses. It may just be Lilith in the spring, which would be really exciting, and the first time I've done a mentoring that focuses on one goddess, which means it'll go deep. And because of the energetics of 2025, Lilith is like, y'all need to know me, you need to embody me, and you need to work with me in order to move through all of these new energetics. So if it's at all interesting, it is always an exploration process and a phone call. We spend 30 minutes together to see if it's a fit, both from them, you, and me. And I'm going to start those phone calls in February. So if anyone's interested, they can head straight to unicornwellnessstudio.com and pick their calendar time the minute this publishes and airs.
Yeah. We'll have the link in our show notes, and this will come out towards the end-ish of January. And so if you're listening to this in real time, and that sounds good to you, the link will be in the show notes. And we'll also link out to where you can follow Tandy on Instagram and where you can subscribe to her podcast and newsletter, all the good stuff. Thank you to Tandy. Thank you to Cathy of Aragon, Cathy A. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And as we end our episodes here on Queen's Podcast, cheers, bitches.
Cheers.
Cheers.